Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host, Mina, and joining me today we got
Jared, but you can call me. No, you can call me Jared, but I'm one off on Discord. I changed my mind.
and
I'm CMM. You can call me Clay.
hello. I'm not sure what to call you now, Jared. I'm like,
Jared. Sorry, I got mixed up.
Yeah.
Personality, identity crisis.
Yeah, I know it's hard, right? Especially, I get it. I also go by my Discord username and my real name. It's hard,
Yeah, it's difficult.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. Believe it or not, we were blessed to have 2 episodes in a row where we get to talk about an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close to announcement.
Yeah, we got new announcements. Isn't that fun? Yeah. So as the title implies, I'm sure you guys already know, we are talking about Pokemon today. All about Pokemon, and I have the 2 biggest Pokemon fans in the world with me. And we're gonna have a great time talking about it. So this presentation was interesting. I think first and foremost, I just want to talk about. So they don't use the Pokemon Direct branding anymore, right? And I think it's clear why. I think from now till the end of time, we are doomed to hear about 5 to 6 minutes of mobile content in these presentations. Because Pokemon now has just this ever-growing list of mobile games that they just have to update us on.
And they're all great, and we play them all.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, even though most of these are games we're not interested in, I do think it's cool that they just have more and more games that they're just just keep getting these updates.
Oh yeah.
Right? Again, I don't care for them. None of us here care for them. I don't think
I used to play Pokemon Go.
Yeah, the same. But not anymore.
It was fun. I know people who still love it.
I mean, I'm more of a Pokemon spin-off guy, so sometimes I do enjoy
dabble
the mobile spin-offs, such as
yeah. So we're going to talk about 2 of the games that they talked about, because these are actually games that we are personally interested in. So sorry to any Pokemon Masters fans out there.
Yeah.
All 2 of you, though.
Yeah. But so we're gonna talk about Pokemon Cafe Remix. Let's start with that, because it's a brand new game technically. I think.
Yeah.
Kind of
like it's a remix.
It's a rebrand.
It's like Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn for Pokemon.
Yes.
Here we go.
If you don't know, they are going to blow up the cafe. Yeah. So Pokemon Cafe Mix, if you don't know, it's a puzzle game. You kind of spin around these little Pokemon heads. I don't know much about it because I haven't played it myself, but Clay, you have. You want to talk to us a little bit about Remix?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird because they're like, hey, Remix is happening. It's a major update. The game's being rebranded, and they said a little bit about it, but they didn't say that much about what's actually different, which I thought was weird.
Right. I looked at it and I was like, I mean, to the casual observer, I'm just like, that sure looks like Pokemon Cafe Mix,
So it kind of looks like they're doing the game has different gimmicks for certain stages, mostly in the form of materials that need to be kind of purged in certain ways. So whether that's you need to blow up a Pokemon next to one of these materials or whatever to make it go away, or whatever it might be. So it sounds like they're adding more of that stuff, which is fun. The main thing for me is that they mentioned that they are going to be making it so that certain stages are a little bit easier to clear in general. So I enjoyed the regular game, but I ended up stopping a decent way in because the stages kind of just start getting very, very annoying, because they're just too much. So they're talking about certain things. If you play Pokemon Cafe Mix, the megaphone item. So one of the things they specifically mentioned is that you can combine those items to make them more powerful, stuff like that.
Quick question: Do you think they were getting too hard because it was a kind of turning into a pay to win type of thing, or?
It's kind of hard to say. I feel like it is doable, but you need to be willing to grind at it for a bit, because sometimes it doesn't you want to do something on the board but you don't have enough precise control to do it, if that makes any sense.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Some of the layouts, it's like it's really tough because like something that's fun about it is that like you drag your finger across the screen and just all these heads like light up or whatever. So it's
a lot of fun
that,
physicsy stuff too.
Yeah, that element has it's fun on like a mindless level, but like in terms of precise control where you need certain things to be next to each other, it can be difficult to control, and the game demands more and more precision and more better use of your limited number of turns and your Pokemon skills and all that. But yeah, I mean, just it kind of just sounds like Pokemon dress up, new Pokemon. This Pokemon, I guess, actually eat the meals that you make now, so that's kind of funny. That wasn't already a thing, but I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do to kind of update the game and maybe make it a little bit easier to get into and play.
Yeah, I wonder what led to this giant remix.
I mean, if I
they made a big deal of it.
Probably a dwindling player base. Yeah. Just probably, I mean, Pokemon Masters, funnily, the game we didn't talk about, that had a very similar, just like big revamp, right?
Yeah.
And that was.
I don't know anyone playing either of these games except play.
Yeah.
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 I mean, like, I haven't touched Cafe Mix in a while, to be clear.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I tried it when it first came out. I bounced kind of off of it, but it didn't seem bad.
Yeah. It's fun.
Maybe this remix will bring new life into the game a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's talk about games that we are actually actively playing, and that is Pokemon Unite.
Yes.
So Pokemon Unite, they didn't announce too much. They gave a release date for the mobile, September 22nd, and there's a pre-registration campaign. If you get the mobile version and they reach a certain number, you get Pikachu, you get a special costume for Pikachu.
Yeah, it's 2.5 million for Pikachu and 5 million for the costume.
For the costume, yeah.
I want that Pikachu, so everyone sign up.
Everyone, sign in.
Yeah.
Sign
Take it. I'll take it for free.
Yeah. And they did mention it is like cross save, right? So if you played on the Switch version already, your save will come with you to the mobile version. So I think that's cool. More importantly,
can you go back and forth constantly?
Yeah. So it's all tied to your account. So
I think does Cafe Mix do that too?
I don't believe it does. That's why I was curious, because I know Cafe Mix also has a mobile version on top of the Switch version, and I don't believe that game is cross save and cross progression, which is annoying.
Oh, so this might be a first for Pokemon mobile games. So that's really cool if so, because obviously, like, otherwise I would have no reason to ever touch the mobile version. But because that's there, I'm like, hey, I'm at least gonna download it, right? So it's got that going for it. But they did announce new content.
Yes.
So if you don't know, Blissey just dropped, right? We still have Blastoise coming sometime. But they announced 2 more Pokemon. So we got Mamoswine and Sylveon.
Yes, Mamoswine is so cute. This is my first time ever hearing about Mamoswine in my life, and I love him already.
Oh my god, he is... And let's talk about that. I think that's funny because I think it speaks to like the kind of Pokemon they're picking for this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just the ones that everyone knows. Like, okay, someone like me, I live and breathe Pokemon, so like, I know who fucking Mamoswine is, right? But then my friend Jared over here, he does not nearly as much, so this is his introduction to Mamoswine, and I think that's cool. I think it's cool that they're not just limiting themselves to the Gen 1 Pokemon that everyone knows,
They're doing a really interesting mix. I've really liked what I've seen so far. All I need is Piplup now.
I'm down for more variety. I like that they're not just, like you said, that they're not just picking the usual suspects and calling it a day. It's nice to see some variety and some representation from Pokemon that maybe wouldn't usually get it, and then they have these kind of unique move sets and feel to them.
And they're getting them out fast, too.
I was going to say, it's pretty rapid.
Because, like, since launch, they've added 2 already, right? Gardevoir and Blissey. And we have 3 on the horizon, at least, right? In the coming months. So, they're racing on a good clip. Honestly, if they keep a good pace of, like, 1 a month, that's a pretty good way to keep me coming back to this game.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
I kind of think of it.
I've been having a blast with this game. So,
it's really good. I do have one complaint. If they're going to add more characters, they really need to change that character selection screen.
Oh yeah,
It's so annoying.
yeah.
You have to keep tapping right.
Yeah.
And
Get
it's
to what you want.
laggy, and it's like it's just a straight line, and you can't do that with this many characters.
No,
It's already bad with the amount of characters there
They also
is.
don't need to load the character models in. It's okay. Just
Right?
show us static images.
Yeah.
Make it go faster.
I'm not really into MOBAs at all. I've played a little bit of Pokemon Unite here and there. I've had fun with it, but one of the things is definitely that character select screen. By the time you're able to move the cursor to the Pokemon that you want, it's gone.
Yeah, especially if it's like the role you want, right? Like
Yeah. Or you think it's gone, but then someone's just scrolling over, and then you get it.
Yeah, but it takes forever for them
weird.
to scroll over it. Like, it's a weird little thing. Like, they should really have a character select screen that's more like akin to like other MOBAs, right? And it's weird because Tencent, Timmy Studios in particular, has made a super popular MOBA before. I feel like they should have known this. Really weird to me, like a really weird oversight to have just this straight line. Like, imagine if you're playing a fighting game and it's just like a straight line, like horizontal.
You mean Virtua
Imagine
Fighter?
that for Smash Ultimate.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
Go tap
right?
50 times to get to the character you want.
It works for Virtua Fighter too because there's like 9 characters. But
Yeah, well, I feel like even Street Fighter 2 doesn't have a straight line, you know?
No,
Like,
they got 2 rows,
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
come on, what are they doing? But yeah. Weird complaint aside, I am having a lot of fun with this game. I'm excited to see more content.
It's the first MOBA I've played since Heroes of the Storm, and I get frustrated with MOBAs, but I do enjoy playing them, especially when they have short run times. 5 to 10 minute games is perfect. 5
and 10 minute games, it's really like the game. I do get frustrated a lot, right? I'm not gonna lie, but because they're so short, like that frustration doesn't sit with me in the same way that like, oh man, if I was losing in a league game, I have to wait 15 minutes before we can even vote surrender in league.
It's also it's so easy to fit into your schedule. Like a league, like let's say League or Heroes of the Storm, a game could last anytime. Let's say Heroes of the Storm could last anytime between 20 and 50 minutes. So I don't know if I have time to play a game, but with Pokemon,
like that one game is a commitment, right?
Yeah.
And
I know I have 10 minutes right now. I can do it.
Yeah, and so it's a really nice pick from the game. I they nailed it. I was surprised because I had no expectations for Pokémon Unite. I was like, I kind of laughed at the idea at first, right?
Yeah, I think everybody did.
Yeah. I thought it was so silly.
Yeah, but then the game turned out to be kind of good, and so it's cool. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the main events, shall we?
Yes.
Let's talk about the smaller bit news. I'm gonna save the best for last. But first and foremost, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So it should be noted, both Pokemon BDSP and Pokemon Legends Arceus, this is the first time we're seeing these games since February, right?
Yeah.
So these games were announced 6 months ago. We have not seen a bit. The only thing we saw in the Switch OLED trailer, we saw a brief glimpse of an updated build of these games, of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, right? And everyone's like, oh, this kind of looks better, but it was off screen, like it was like on the handheld screen. It was really weird. Alright, but it's been half a year. They finally had new stuff to show, and boy, I think both of these games got pretty nice upgrades, right?
Yeah.
So let's go about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. First of all, let's get this out of the way. The trailer was kind of weird.
It was so bad.
It was a very strange choice in editing.
It was so hard to tell what features were new, what was old, and then they just kept scrolling on like text.
Yeah. It was
so
silly.
An
interesting choice. I think overall I still liked it though, because it did show off a lot of features that got me excited, right?
Yeah. The content was good. The editing was weird.
The editing was weird.
The content was cool.
And I think the music was nice and pumped me up, even though it was nonsensical, what was going on.
Yeah.
It's like, overall, I still liked the trailer, not gonna lie.
They just decided, I guess, that everyone is nostalgic for Diamond and Pearl text boxes.
I guess.
Because that was the basis of that was just.
But then in my
Diamond and Pearl
lizard brain, I was
text
like, maybe I am nostalgic for this. I was like, there's something about this clicking. I was like, the noises in particular. I was like, but so let's get into what they added. So I think first and foremost, this trailer was trying to convey, hey, all those weird features from Diamond and Pearl, we brought them back in some way. It's not in the same way as before, but we brought them back in some way. Which is cool, because Diamond and Pearl, if you don't know, these games, had a lot of kind of extraneous stuff about them, right? And a lot of it utilizing specific DS features. So a lot of people were kind of like pessimistic on whether or not these features are going to come back or not, right? But it does seem like they're bringing a lot of them back. Like this does seem like a really, I don't even know if Faithful is the right word, because these features are revamped. Like they're nothing like their original selves, right? But it's very cool. First and foremost, I think the coolest feature would be the underground, right?
Yeah.
So the underground was a feature in Diamond and Pearl. It was and so first of all, this is the first time this mode is online, so that's super cool, right?
Yeah, local and online.
So you can co-op with it.
Yeah, so this was local only in the original. It's going to be online as well in this version, and of course local. And so you get to, if you don't know, you get to make your own secret base. There's like a whole there's kind of this whole underground that you can explore. There's like Pokemon that are kind of hiding, and what they've done this time, Pokemon that you would not usually find in Diamond and Pearl, they're sticking a bunch into the underground, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the battles in in the normal Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl game, like it's your traditional old school style Pokemon, right? Where it's like wild Pokemon, you run through grass and then a random encounter pops up, right? The underground is more like the modern Pokemon games. It has overworld Pokemon like the other Pokemon games on Switch, right? So you're finding all these Pokemon in the overworld. Again, these are Pokemon that you're not going to usually find above ground, right? And there's
a lot of them were platinum Pokemon.
Yeah, a lot of them are Pokemon that were in the platinum Pokedex in particular. I don't know if it's all of them or, but it seems like a healthy. At least we know it's not just going to be the original Diamond and Pearl Pokedex, right? Which is a relief because Diamond and Pearl only had 2 Fire type Pokemon. If you didn't pick Infernape, your only choice for a Fire type Pokemon was Rapidash. That's it. So definitely the Diamond and Pearl are games that needed an expanded Pokedex. So definitely cool that these games have that. But the underground, it just seems like it's very different this time too, right? They have the Grand Underground now. And it's just this co-op focus.
Yeah, they renamed it because it's
it's bigger.
And it looks awesome. Pearl was the last Pokemon game I played, but I didn't beat it. I didn't even know this was a feature in the game.
Yeah. A lot of people don't, especially because it wasn't online, right?
When do you get this feature? Like, is it like towards the end of the game?
It's pretty early on, actually. Believe it or not.
Oh, you just have to go to it.
Yeah.
I guess I just never went to it.
And I think the reason I like this in particular, because Sword and Shield made me realize, man, Pokemon having co-op features is something that doesn't happen very often, but it's so much fun, Because you have your PvP battles and you have trading, but like having like things you could do together with a buddy, it's a fun thing that does not happen much in these games, right? So I think it's cool to add that cooperative element because I loved raids in Sword and Shield.
I like they showed people playing together, but then they also showed there's that fossil digging thing. Which I guess was a part of the original. I'm the least Pokemon savvy person here. But you were talking about weird DS features and stuff. I thought it was kind of great that the panel that shows up when you're digging fossils, it almost kind of reminded me oh, this looks like a DS screen.
This looks like a DS,
And
that feature looks cool too.
You can use the touchscreen for it as well, which is nice.
It feels like I haven't played the original game with how many of these features I didn't even know existed.
That you're like, this was there? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what's new and what's old? I played 4 badges of this and then forgot about it.
Yeah.
Well, another feature that was in the original Diamond Pearl were contests, right?
Yeah.
I do remember this one.
Yeah, so super contests are here. I think more people knew about this because the anime had contests. They were a big part of the show. But they're completely different from the original iteration. Now there's a rhythm minigame aspect to it, which I'm super into. I have never ever done a Pokemon contest in my life, and I have many hours in the franchise. But I'm kind of interested in this iteration of it. Throw a rhythm mini game at me, and I'm like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, the rhythm mini game, I was like, oh, okay.
Right? I think that's an interesting take on it, for sure, you know?
And that is also co-op. I don't know if it's online or not, but it is co-op.
Yeah, it is co-op.
I don't think it
up to 4 people can.
says.
Yeah, they didn't say one way or another, so I'm a little concerned. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it's online. But it says up to 4 people can participate together. And so in this, and if you don't know, like you can dress up your you. Oh well, this is a brand new feature actually. You can dress up. Clothing customization is a thing that was not in Diamond and Pearl. And that's the thing they added in X and Y. I was not expecting to see it here, especially with the chibi models, right?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see it either.
Yeah, but you can fully customize your character. Well, not fully, but you know, there's a lot of outfits. And something that I thought was really cool that I really appreciated, there's skin tone options for your character.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
That is nice. Something that Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire just skipped out entirely, right? And so I was like, oh man, maybe for these remakes they're not going to do that, especially with these established characters, right? But no, they're here. Dawn and Lucas, you can make them a skin tone that feels more appropriate to you, and I think that's really cool.
That's great.
And it's worth mentioning too, just for anyone who's curious, it appears that the shop for new costumes and dressing up is replacing the game corner from the original versions.
And what was the game corner?
So the game corner, basically, it's like it's Pokemon gambling.
Oh, and they're not allowed to have gambling anymore, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing that they have removed over time.
Yeah,
right?
That's unfortunate. I mean, it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, I liked those mini games. I always enjoyed those.
That stuff I like. I kind of wish that they were able to, like, if not, even if it wasn't like gambling, even if they put Voltorb Flip or whatever the
from Heart Gold Soul Silver,
back in, or some kind of mini game like that would be cool.
Other small little aesthetic things, by the way, your Pokemon, you can have a Pokemon following you in the overworld.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Always love that feature. Always love that feature. As minor as it is, it really just makes me feel like more connected to my team, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they have the capsule decoration, which was in the original, but seems like it's a bit enhanced this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, just being able to see those effects in HD, where a lot more can happen and it looks more crisp, I think that alone does a lot for it, right?
They have like the 2D view and they have the 3D view for placing the stickers too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that was one of those things I especially did not expect to come back, because it's such a frivolous feature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they're taking care to really just, everything that was in Diamond and Pearl. Now that we've talked about what's in it, though, let's talk about a quick note on what's not in it.
Okay.
I gotta mention it because it is a big topic of conversation. So there has not been any kind of hint of Platinum content besides the aforementioned. We saw some Pokemon that were in Platinum be placed in the underground, right?
Yep.
But otherwise, and specifically what's fueling this, so generally Game Freak, Pokemon Company, they like to show the map of the region, right, of the game. And we looked at the map, and the Battle Frontier is not there.
Yeah.
And so that it's on the map of Pokemon Platinum. It is not on the map here.
I believe it's just the Battle Tower. Is that correct?
Yeah. And so it's not looking likely that Platinum content is in the game. And I know that's going to be a huge bummer for a lot of people, especially because Pokemon Platinum is known to be just one of the best,
Yeah.
They did a lot to improve Diamond and Pearl. Platinum did, right?
Yeah.
And so not having that, I think that is a big bummer, especially content-wise. Platinum added a lot,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
disappointing.
It is a disappointment that that's not there. Maybe there's still 3 months. I don't know, but it's certainly not looking likely.
I doubt it. Yeah, if it's not on that map, I doubt it. It stinks. I have a friend who's very much into Pokemon, and he always tells me how Diamond and Pearl are and then Platinum is like, it just does so much for
Oh, it really
that gen.
does.
It's just the definitive way to play that gen. So it's unfortunate that in these remakes, not remixes, in these remakes that they don't have the platinum content. Also can't say I'm surprised based on what they've done previously, but
yeah, I mean, but the thing that's frustrating, so Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire were similar, right? Where it largely ignored Emerald, right?
Yeah.
But Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, to their credit, and I don't like giving this game credit because I do not like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, right? But they were like fully remade in the Gen 6 engine, right? And there was a lot of work put into them. And I'm not saying there wasn't a lot of work put in, but this is clearly a smaller budget affair, right? You can just look at it. Like the whole point of this remake is to be faithful, right? Whereas Oras, it did like it. I wouldn't say it was I would not say Oras was a step back from Emerald. It was more of a step sideways, if that makes sense, right? Like, yeah, the Emerald stuff wasn't there, but there was just a whole bunch new that was exclusive to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, right?
Yeah.
And it was a game again that was just fully remade in the Gen 6 engine, right?
But do you think they're doing this? Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just saying, but this one, it's not. It doesn't have that same excuse. For a game that looks like this, I feel like there's no excuse not to have everything that the Gen 4 games had. What were you gonna ask?
I was gonna say, do you think they're doing this so they can do the big Platinum and Emerald remakes later on?
No, I really don't think so.
They just don't.
They just don't. Yeah. Because if they were gonna do an Emerald remake or whatever, they would have done it on the 3DS. We've moved on from Gen 3. We've moved straight to Gen 4.
Something we've talked about before, and I can't remember if we've talked about it on the podcast or just amongst ourselves, but something that is very intentional and notable this time with Pokemon is that each of the Pokemon games that are on Switch are very distinct from one another.
Yes.
They are all very different and kind of don't cannibalize one another. And so this one kind of fits in the very much like traditional, old, classic Pokemon style.
It's the only Pokemon on Switch with random encounters, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it kind of and it does its own thing with that. So it's a little disappointing to not see them incorporate that content. And you were talking briefly just about how the game looks, and it definitely got a big upgrade since last time. I personally was fine with it when they first showed it. Right now, my feeling is that it still looks fine, but that it's a little much with the bloom and the motion.
The game went from having no lighting to like probably too much lighting.
Mega lighting.
Yeah. I do think it does look better though, like markedly so. Yeah. But there are some areas where it's just like, oh god, like what is happening, right? And again, though, to be fair, just like last time, there is still 3 months out to launch, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not the final look and whatever, but it is weird what they've done with it. I think, like, again, it does look a lot better than I think it did at first. But yeah, they definitely could still use some tweaks to really nail it, I think.
There's if you don't mind, there's actually 2 things I wanted to bring up in regards to BDSP that we haven't mentioned yet.
Sure, yeah.
One of them is kind of taking a step back for a second to the underground where there are secret bases. Now, I don't tend to like mainline Pokemon at all. It's just not my thing. But the one thing that always made me that I thought was really cool about Gen 3 were the secret bases. And I always forget that there are secret bases in Gen 4 as well.
Gen 4, yeah.
And specifically, they talk about, you get these Pokemon statues that you can place, and it actually influences the special, like, Pokemon hideaway areas that you'll encounter on the map, which I think is cool. This is just an open question for people who are more familiar than I am. Were there other items besides Pokemon statues for the Gen 4 version of Secret Bases?
Or was it just... I do not remember the Secret Bases that well.
Gotcha. Because Alpha, Sapphire, and Gen 3 or whatever, like, you could do some really fun decorative stuff with those.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't sure if it was like that where like you want to like have people visit your secret base and they could maybe battle like a
Yeah,
preset
I know for sure.
team.
Like there is like stuff you can like you want people to visit your secret base. I know that for sure. But I
Yeah,
don't. Yeah, I don't know what exactly that entails. Like because these are features on honest, I did not interact with. You know.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second point, which is actually the one that distresses me the most, no sign of the Pokéetch yet.
No,
Now,
no. So
we
that
were
is the
talking,
one big weird
yeah,
feature, right?
we
That
were we were talking about the weird DS features that were in these games that were really cool that came back, but the big major one to me that has not been shown at all is the Pokéetch, which, if I remember correctly, it had a bunch of different like unlockable like modules and stuff, everything from like timers to mini games and doodads to like actual like useful stuff, but a lot of it used the touchscreen.
and specifically
Um,
the dual screens, right? Like having that
yeah,
like second screen freed up lets you do just
yeah.
all sorts of weird stuff on that second screen.
Yeah, because you would have the Poke Etch on the bottom screen, and it would have a clock or whatever you had active at the moment. I really hope to see that soon because something for me, even as someone who doesn't like mainline Pokemon, is that the cool like gear that you get in each of those games is so neat. Like obviously there's the Pokedex, but Gen 2 had the like what was it like the Poke gear and like all those like doodads that came with that. And the Poke Etch, I just always thought was really cool, and it would be a shame to lose the uniqueness that offered, even if they replaced some of the functions with other stuff.
Yeah, it
Um,
would be because I feel like that was like a very cool part of Gen 4, you know,
yeah,
and just to lose that completely would be a pretty big bummer, honestly. So yeah,
yeah,
I hope they bring it back in some way. Like they can't do it 1-to-1, they just can't,
yeah.
right?
No, definitely not 1-to-1, but at least like on some level, like
But
my nightmare, right, is that it'll be
um,
like instead of the Poke Etch, you'll have the Rotom Pokedex or something again
oh sure,
for
yeah.
this.
You
Yeah.
know, and this is the origin of Rotom, Gen 4.
Oh no, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know what they'll do with it. I'm curious that, like, they haven't touched upon it. I, I wouldn't be so sure in saying it's not there. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not of the belief that we've seen just literally everything for the game,
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree. It's just
But
worrisome that
yeah, for sure.
they haven't indicated it at all yet.
In one way or another. And it
Yeah.
does seem like that would have been something in this trailer, right? But
Yeah.
maybe they're saving it for something else. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I hope it's there though. I hope
Yeah.
because again they've done a good job of bringing like other features that I would have thought would have been DS only, right?
Yeah.
So I really hope that the Pocket is no exception to that because if you're not gonna have platinum content, I do hope you at least bring back everything about Diamond Pearl. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Come on, because
Yeah.
there's really not much of an excuse there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? We'll see. I will say I think this trailer or this more so this content dump did a better job of selling the game. You know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were down on Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, myself included, and I feel more like okay, yeah, this is a game I want to revisit, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're doing a good enough job where I'm like, okay, like yeah, sure, I'll give it, I'll give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the big one.
Yes, big one. The big
The
one.
big one. I think this is the reason you probably watched this presentation, the reason you probably clicked this podcast, and that
Yep.
is Pokemon Legends Arceus. We got big new details. We actually kind of know what the game is now, right?
Yeah.
We kind of have this general idea that this is an open world Pokemon game, right? But it's set in ancient Sinnoh, but we got a lot, and I mean a lot of details, right?
Yes.
So first and foremost, we're not in the Sinnoh region technically. This is the
Right.
land where Sinnoh is, but it used to be called the Hisui region. Fun little thing. And so in this game, you are a member of the Galaxy Expedition Team, which immediately raises eyebrows considering Team Galactic.
Yep.
Right? And features ancient versions of Professor Rowan and a ancient female version of Cyrus, it looks like. The Rowan connection was just straight up confirmed. So Commander Kamato, they said on the website, he is Professor Rowan's ancestor, right? But Captain Silene, they're being a little bit more coy on. But I mean, that looks like Cyrus, right? If Cyrus was a woman and lived hundreds of years ago, that's yeah. So little suspicious. I think first, I don't know where to begin. So let's start with, I guess, the gameplay loop, right?
Yeah.
You are in Jubilife City. That's kind of your home base, right? And this is the biggest city in Diamond and Pearl. So it makes sense that this would be one of the biggest civilizations already, even 100 years ago, right? Or whatever. The gameplay loop, for lack of a better way to describe it, kind of reminds me of Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by this.
Right? So you're in your home base. You go you get tasks to do. You go out till the, I think, 5 regions. We don't have like an exact number, but it looks like 5.
So
right?
It's not fully open world?
So as far as I can tell, the thing we know for sure, you don't have the whole map unlocked to you from the start. That's just a fact, right? Now, whether that means segmented big areas, i.e. Monster Hunter, or is it one big interconnected world?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is an interconnected world, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, the map made me question it. Like, can I walk from one end to the other? And if not, then it's not my Pokemon of the wild.
Right. It is more like Pocket Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong though. I'm not saying it's not interconnected. It very well could be, right?
Yeah,
but
we don't know.
I don't think we have enough information to say one way or another.
It does look massive.
But for sure, it is not a Breath of the Wild type of thing where you could just go anywhere right from the start, right? Yeah. Or I guess after the plateau, it wasn't literally from the start. But once you got off the plateau, it was literally anywhere, right? And this game is not that. It is going to be segmented off. Like, you're gonna go to places in some semblance of an order or something, right? So you're doing these tasks in Jubilife. You get these tasks in Jubilife. They send you out into the world. You go do them. You come back, get new tasks. That seems to be like the core loop of the game, right?
Yep.
And with that, so there's no trainer battles, or at least from what we can tell so far, right? I would just wager there's not, right? Maybe there's like special ones for like story, like very specific ones, right? But you're not going to be finding trainers just out in the wild like you do in a normal Pokemon game, right?
Yeah.
What you are going to find is a bunch of wild Pokemon who will literally attack you, the player, not your Pokemon, you, the player.
I love that. I love that a lot.
And so the conceit of this game is about completing the Pokedex, the very first Pokedex, in fact, right?
Yeah.
And with that, so they've changed the gameplay loop a little bit. Again, so this is not about trainer battles, so that inherently changes the Pokemon gameplay flow a lot, right? But what this is about, so the way they've done, the way they've facilitated this, first of all, you don't transition into a separate screen for a battle, right? Like, battles kind of just happen seamlessly in the world that you're exploring, which I think is very cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, you're not always fighting Pokemon, and they made sure to point this out, right? So some Pokemon, when they see you, they run away, right? So you gotta sneak up on them and then go throw a Pokeball at them, right? Some Pokemon, when they see you, they come attack you, right? And again, you have a dodge roll for that purpose.
Yeah, it's an action element, which is
cool. So there's an action element to it where, Pokemon will, again, not just attack you, not attack the Pokemon, they will attack you, right? And then also some Pokemon are just nice and come up to you and just want you to pet them, I guess.
Like the Bidoof.
Like the little Bidoof, yeah. He just comes up to you, right? But so this is very different from how you usually interact with Pokemon, right? And especially, like, even Sword and Shield, which had overworld Pokemon, the systems at play with the overworld Pokemon were nowhere near what you're finding here, right?
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, I guess, what do you guys think about that new gameplay loop? Like, that, I mean, that's very different from usual Pokemon, right?
Yeah. For me, as someone who does not like traditional Pokemon, this game is probably the closest that I could see myself enjoying. the loop itself I actually dig. It's definitely more it's exploration based. The action elements of being, attacked by a Pokemon or needing to be stealthy. I know the site shows like you can use like smoke bombs to like, keep Pokemon from seeing you and stuff. Um and also like the timing and the distance with which like you throw a Pokeball out to start a battle. I think it's all very compelling. Um and just yeah, I'm down with it.
Yeah, this might be the first Pokemon game I play since Pearl. It just seems like something new. I don't know if I love the expeditions or not. I guess I have to see the structure of them more, but I am interested in trying this out.
I think there's definitely concern that it could be a little grindy, right? And Monster Hunter is known to be a very grindy game, but with that, you have the element of you get new armor, right? And this not so much. You're not skinning these Bidoofs, right?
Hopefully not.
Well. There is that pre-order costume that you get.
Yeah. That reminds me. So there's a pre-order costume based off of, and let's talk about this. So this game has new Pokemon, and I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Something that we weren't sure would happen or not, and I think most were expecting not, right? But this game is new Pokemon. That's huge, right? Adding new Pokemon is always a big deal. And so specifically, we've seen 2 brand new Pokemon and 2 regional variants. And brand new kind of also, but they are new Pokemon. They have new Pokedex numbers. They are new Pokemon, right? But they're evolutions of previous Pokemon, right? So we got Wordier, which is an evolution of Stantler.
Yep.
And fun fact, this is the first time we're seeing Stantler in a Pokemon game since Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire.
Wow.
Yeah. And Basculin, who is evolving into Basculegion. So Wordier...
Tell us their backstory real quick.
Huh?
Tell us their backstory real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't worry, I was getting there. So Wordier is a normal psychic Pokemon. This one's not as cool. It evolved into Stantler. It evolved from Stantler because long ago, there was a lot more to grow, and so Stantlers could roam free, and it let them get bigger, basically, right? Got a lot more fur. But then we got
boring.
But then we got Basculegion. So he's a water ghost Pokemon. Where does the ghost type come in, I wonder? Well, you see, Basculin, this evolution happened because Basculin, little schools of Basculin that would travel together, a lot of the Basculins would die off, you see. And so the remaining Basculin gets possessed by the souls of the other Basculin that could not withstand the harsh journey upstream.
So good.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
This is a wild.
Yeah.
They actually read that description out. They didn't say die. I added that. But the souls of... that's an actual part of it. Like, the Basculin is possessed.
It implies they died.
They literally... And they said that in the video. That was so,
Usually they don't tell the dark backstories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like these 2 evolutions because, honestly, Stantler and Basculin are pretty unremarkable Pokemon. You know?
Yeah. I think lore-wise, this stuff is very fun and interesting.
For sure. And these 2 have gameplay purposes, right? Which I'll get to in a second. But then we got 2 regional forms. So we got Hisuian Braviary, who is now a psychic flying type. Yeah. How do you describe him? He looks pretty cool. He's got like a...
It's a bird.
He's a bird.
Yeah.
He's not as Americana as before. He's more like more wintry.
He looks like a wintry hawk with Kirby's Plasma Wisp hat.
Yeah. And then we got Hisuian Growlithe. Now this guy's been getting so much fan art. Yeah, he's so adorable.
It's so cute.
He looks like a more Japanese style like Growlithe. We all love him. Yeah. He's adorable. Yeah. He's a rock type now. Fire rock.
That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, obviously the core appeal of Pokemon is always the new Pokemon, right? So getting new forms, getting new evolutions, and maybe entirely new Pokemon, I think that is such an exciting addition to this game. You know?
Yeah.
And definitely gives it something to that. Now they will have a reason to keep kind of updating us on this game, right? Is hey, here's the next batch of regional forms or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd love to see what Arcanine looks like. You know, we know that one's at least going to be a thing, right?
Yep.
And so Braviary, Wordier, and Basculegion, they had one more reason to be shown off, and that's because they help facilitate the open world travel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really cool.
So you can ride Basculegion. He's a big old fish. You can use him to cross waters. Wordier, you get to ride this thing as a mount, like similar to like a horse or something, right? In the on the land, and then Braviary, you get to take to the skies with Braviary. I think that's the coolest one for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of fun. I think that it'll. I mean, this game is definitely all about just exploring and interacting with the Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
It makes me wonder. They showed a lot of Pokemon, but I wonder what else is in the world.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Legends is hiding a lot still, right? Like, I mean, hell, we haven't even seen Arceus, who is like the focal point. It's in the game's name, Pokemon Legends Arceus, right? We've not seen anything about Arceus.
So. But we did see this weird thing where it's almost looks like the Pokemon are possessed and
they were rabid,
aggressive.
Yeah,
the Pokemon go rabid, and you have to put them down.
Yeah, it's almost like the Blood Moon from
Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it's really weird. It kind of, to bring it back to Monster Hunter again, it reminded me of like the Rampage monsters, where in the Rampage they get like more aggressive and more like wild, right? Yeah. And this seemed to be a very similar vibe. That looked really interesting. Again, something else I was just not expecting in this game, right? And I forgot to mention that there's changes to the turn-based battle system, right?
Yes.
So no longer is it just strictly like you pick a move, the opponent picks a move, and then rinse and repeat, right? There is more elements to it. So they've added basically what they call agile style and strong style. So if you use agile style, the move will be weaker, but you get more turns basically in the turn order, right? Whereas if you pick strong style, you give up some turns in the turn order, so it's not strictly back and forth, right? You can get more turns in a single like little battle, right? Like in one turn, your Pokemon can move multiple times, right? But you can forego that and do a strong style move and do more attack power, right?
Yeah.
And
it shows that list, like the turn order list, on screen, which I really like, because as someone who does not tend to enjoy Pokemon or RPGs in general, when turn-based combat's going on and I'm not really understanding why there are situations where I'm not able to do a move or I'm getting attacked multiple times in a row, it can be frustrating, and also frustrating when I feel like I can't influence it. So I like this change a lot.
Yeah, it makes it very clear, I think. It's an interesting strategic element to the game, right? That was not present before. I'm curious, like, is this like a long-term thing? Is this I'm guessing it's just for this game. But it is interesting because, the Pokemon battle system is the thing that has gotten touched the least over the years, right? But because it is just so holy, right? It is just like touching that is almost like, a sin, right? And it's interesting that they're really using this game to just experiment with a lot of different ideas that we're not used to seeing in the core titles. And I think that's really cool. I'm really into this idea of just, hey, we have all these weird ideas that maybe wouldn't fit, maybe will fit in Gen 9, maybe won't fit, who knows, but let's test them all out in this game, right? That's kind of how I see a lot of this, right? And I'm super in for it. This looks rad.
Yeah. Again, it's
really ambitious.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's safe to say this is one of the most ambitious Pokemon games, period, right? If not, right? This game is wild.
And not to mention, too, we talked a little bit about, the open world, and we're not really sure what's in it. The only thing that we really know that's in it for sure are these little camps that basically function both as like Poke Centers, but also you have a crafting workbench and you can make items like Pokeballs and smoke bombs and stuff, which is another cool element to this, I think.
I mean, this definitely feels like a more like this is like your single player like. And again, maybe not open world. I mean, but pretty open.
Yeah, pretty open at
right?
least.
Experience that like Pokemon very, very different from the core titles, and I think something that a lot of people have been wanting from the core titles, right?
Yeah.
I think this is such a fascinating take on Pokemon. I think people were worried with that first trailer, like, what exactly do you do? Is there going to be that much? Will there even be that much? Like, whatever. But I think this trailer did a good job of kind of assuaging a lot of that,
Yeah, and also, not only that, but obviously the game runs much smoother now at this point.
It looks pretty good.
Cleaner. I would say it just looks good. I know some people are like, I'm sure on a technical level it still kind of looks mediocre or whatever. I think this game looks pretty good for what it is.
Yeah, I think it does too.
Yeah. And it runs like, I mean, to be fair, like, it's been 6 months since we last saw it, right? So they've had a lot of time. Clearly, I think some people were afraid that it would look like that, and I always thought that was silly.
Right? It looked like a tech demo last time.
Yeah. But it is wild just how much they improved on that front in those 6 months.
Yeah.
It is a marked difference from that February trailer. Which I think
one
is
of the
wild.
reasons that discourse is kind of annoying, not just with Pokemon but with games in general, is that it is very true that the average person doesn't really know how to judge a game in development,
right?
And so everyone has these ideas about what's going to be improved or what can't be improved or whatever. And I think the main point to keep in mind is that it's a game in active development, so taking something as, even if it's, the game's was less than a year away in February, even taking something at that stage and being like, this is definitely representative of the final, I think is silly. So I'm glad to see,
especially because like different developers focus on different things, right? So like, especially, and this is something we have explicitly seen. Switch games, first party Switch games in particular, tend to get the graphics improvements last, right?
Yeah,
like
the polish phase.
Those are the graphics are the things that we see get upgraded in those closer to launch trailers, right? That's kind of been the case throughout the Switch's life cycle, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's silly to be like, oh man, that February trailer was representative of anything, right?
Yeah.
Besides like the kind of core concept of the games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, kind of overall thoughts about Pokemon Legends. I mean, personally,
looks good.
Yeah, I'm really like this game. I was already excited for this game, but I'm really sold on it now, right? I'm really excited to see new Pokemon. I'm really excited to see like ancient takes on the characters from Diamond and Pearl, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just exploring this world. I think is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just all for this.
For me, as someone who doesn't enjoy traditional Pokemon, I'm interested in this, and I'm more likely to give it a shot. I really like what they showed. I like the loop. I like the changes. The action elements appeal to me as well, in terms of like dodging Pokemon on the overworld, or throwing a ball into battle and being able to craft items and explore and all of that kind of stuff. They mentioned too, like, in a normal Pokemon game, you catch a Pokemon, it's added to the Pokedex, that's it. In this game, you can't just catch a Pokemon and have it be added to the Pokedex. You have to, like, kind of continue to monitor it in a sense. So like, seeing it use different attacks, or which I think is cool and is fun.
I mean, that makes sense for a Pokemon surveyor researcher, right? Like, it's not good enough to just have it. Like, you're the one who has to observe what it does, like how it behaves. That is so cool. And another thing that I think is so distinct from core Pokemon games, I think like side content kind of like that, or even this is part of the main game, right? But I think it will delve into like side quest type of stuff. Those are not really that common in Pokemon games, right?
Yeah.
And so getting like a side questy type thing, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, and also just to mention too, there was some confusion afterwards, but it does appear that at the very least there is some sort of built-in trading element.
Yeah.
There is 2-player trading. Unclear if there's battles or anything else, but at the very least, there's trading and mystery gift, and mystery gift is how you get the costume that I mentioned earlier, which looks like they skinned a Growlithe.
Yeah. That
But
should
that was nice
hopefully
too.
point to character customization, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen it for sure in game besides the pre-order costume, but like I would be very surprised if there's not trainer customization.
What I like about this showing is that not only does it does answer a lot of questions, but it also adds a lot more questions and mystique. And one of the things I'm wondering about is, obviously your Pokemon, you level them up or whatever, but they kind of mention like, oh, if you take too much damage, then you spawn back at the camp pretty much. So I'm kind of curious if there's going to be ways to like level up yourself as well,
Oh, sure,
or like
yeah.
improve yourself, like maybe either like you can increase your HP, or maybe you'll be able to dodge roll faster or something, or maybe you'll be able to craft an item that increases your stats or resists to damage or whatever. I'm curious to see what that's about, as well as that UI that was shown on screen that they didn't really show much of. There's some icons in the bottom left that you can pull up certain menus.
Yeah, there was a like a lot of menu stuff that just like we did not see at all. We got the briefest of glimpses of, right?
Yeah. I like the switching what Pokemon you're gonna throw with the shoulder buttons, and then that battle UI looks much nicer.
Oh
than
my
it did
god!
last time.
Can we talk about the battle UI, because I think it looks so cool. Like it's very stylish, right?
Yeah,
and does a great job. Does a great job of like, oh yeah, like this is it gives you that more kind of like ancient feel to it, right? And I think that's very, very neat.
Yeah. And like we've already seen like the heavy balls. I think you have to be closer to throw them, but they're more successful or whatever. So a lot of stuff spatially and like action wise that you don't normally see in Pokemon being brought into this, which I think is super cool and is definitely what I find most appealing right now.
Yeah, I think overall this game looks really good, and like I said, I haven't played a game since Pearl, but I am going to probably get this one. It just looks like a great game. Hopefully expeditions are like a good size, so I can kind of pick up my Switch on the go, do an expedition, do some exploring, and then head back to camp. It seems like it could be massive too.
This game has potential to be massive. I mean, who knows how big that Pokédex is, right?
Yeah, and too, obviously we've been kind of comparing this to Monster Hunter a lot. We now know there's at least trading, but obviously a big component of Monster Hunter is online quests and co-op, and some stuff that's just online only, and I'm kind of curious if that element will make it into here at all.
That'd be cool.
It doesn't seem like it is so far,
I'm not expecting it, but oh man, fingers crossed, because that would be...
It would be cool if you could go on expeditions together.
Especially since they added some co-op stuff for Sword and Shield open areas.
Yeah, I mean, Sword and Shield and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl both have added like a lot of like co-op features, right? And I think that's just the direction that the franchise should just be heading more towards. Because I've never cared for the PvP of Pokemon. Like there was a time in my life that I did, right? But it takes so much time to invest in, right?
Yeah.
To even be able to scratch the surface on that. But co-op elements, that's just something you can do with your buddies, no problem.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning too that competitive is staying with Sword and Shield. They specifically said that.
No ranked play for either new game, which is strange. And I know, like I don't think any of us care, but a lot of people will be disappointed by that.
Yeah, at least in Brilliant Diamond, is kind of weird to not have a ranked of some form, even if it isn't like the standard or whatever.
Well, I'm curious. I wonder if they'll add the Pokemon that show up in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and maybe even Legends, to Sword and Shield, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty smart of them to do, because they're going to get home compatibility, right? And they'll have the models on the Switch, so I'm hoping that those things get added to Sword and Shield's Pokédex, because if that's going to be the PvP game, that's going to be competitive game, I adding those new elements would definitely be a great way to keep Sword and Shield fresh.
Would be great.
Yeah, it would be really interesting if, like, after all this, like, you know, they add some of the new Pokemon to Sword and Shield, and like we get like another like DLC for Sword and Shield. It would be so weird.
I mean, you know, but I think that goes to show, like, what, and I guess, well, I guess start to kind of wrap it up, but that really goes to show that all the Pokemon games on Switch really just continue to have a place, right? Sword and Shield is not going anywhere, you know? Let's Go is still its own weird, unique thing. Legends is very different. BDSP is very different, right? Pokemon 3DS, it very much felt like, okay, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, that replaced X and Y. Sun and Moon replaced ORAS. Ultra Sun replaced Sun and Moon, right? But yeah, like, each of these games still has a reason to exist. And I think that's great. Because it just lets them experiment a lot more. Legends, I think, is the ultimate proof of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I was actually surprised to see that Pokemon Home was being incorporated into Legends. I just didn't think of it as that type of game.
Right, yeah.
So that definitely raises questions.
Well, I think that kind of leaves it. I mean, I think that kind of sums it up pretty well. We're excited, but clearly there's a lot more to show Pokemon Legends. And so I'm definitely excited to hear more over the coming months. But yeah, that has been our podcast for the week. We want to thank you for listening. We had a lot to say about Pokemon. There's, you know, they showed quite a bit. So, if you enjoyed this and you made it to the end, we'd really appreciate if you follow our podcast on one of our many podcast services that we are on. Pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. So it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Really, wherever you want to listen to a podcast, we're there.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube.
And honestly, you know, we're in the Discord. So this is this is brought to you by the Nintendo Era Discord. I like to say, and let us know in the Discord. What do you guys think of the podcast? What are your thoughts, feedback, positive or negative?
Yeah,
right?
Shoot us some questions. We'll try to answer them on the show.
You know, if you shoot us questions, we'll definitely try to answer them. If you want us to talk about some specific things, because, you know, the world of Nintendo news, it's not every week, and we're not lucky to get a presentation every week, right?
Yeah.
So if you have conversations,
some weeks we got to talk about. We got some smaller episodes in the works for off weeks.
All right. Yeah. But we could definitely use ideas. You know.
Yeah, we love ideas.
So if you're like, you know what, please, I really want someone to talk about this. Let's do. Maybe we'll
do it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it.
And one thing I'd like to quickly note is the blog is at nintendoera.wordpress.com.
Yes.
It's been a bit inactive for a bit, but a certain upcoming episode may have something to do with maybe something new being on there, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
So read that blog, smash that bell. And,
we got something cool coming up.
And all right, I think that about wraps it up. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.